We all like buying new cameras, but often forget that it's even more important to buy good lenses. If you are like me, you probably have several 50mm primes and a couple of basic zooms, and that is what you usually leave your house with. But every collection needs to have space for something special. It may be a lens you will use only occasionally, and for most of the time will be just collecting dust. But it shouldn't make it any less special. TTArtisan is a name you probably already know and may think that this is just another cheap lens from a cheap Chinese manufacturer. But these days I can confidently say that TTArtisans make supremely decent optics at very low prices. They also make some not so cheap lenses that are very fast and very large and will make a good companion for your Leica M camera. They also make the arguably cheapest 50mm equivalent crop sensor lens, but here we are talking about the 40mm f2.8 macro lens, which at $99 brand new makes a lot of sense. This macro lens can be this cheap also thanks to its design. It just doesn't look like any other lens and you will be hardly pressed to find something classical about its looks. Another reason is the design for crop sensor, but we don't mind that at all because it's made well, is all metal and glass and works very well on any Fujifilm camera. Compared to the $600 Fujinon 6mm f2.8 or twice that expensive but fantastic 80mm f2.8 macro lens, you can sleep well knowing that you won't go bankrupt just so you can try taking some macro images. And I know the Fujifilm lenses have autofocus, but with macro, I think a manual focus is preferable. Because when you are focusing on a subject that is close up, autofocusing can be slow, it can hunt, and even then it still might not be focused on where you want it. Better to be doing it manually yourself, and thankfully this has a nice smooth focusing ring. You can feel the savings on lens design here because the focusing ring is not very comfortable, with the grooves having sharp edges and yet not helping to grip the ring any better. The lens does extend quite a bit during focusing, so you have to be really careful when you are putting this lens near your subject, especially if it's one that can fly away or be squashed. Good thing is that we do get 1:1 magnification at the fully extended state, and the closest focusing distance is 18 centimeters from the sensor. So when you include the length of the lens, that puts it at a close distance to the subject. The most important is that the lens shoots super sharp shots even wide open with plenty of detail, which is what you want in a macro lens. That applies for center sharpness at f2.8, but stop down to 5.6 and the sharpness starts to become more uniform throughout the frame. And that is where you want to start anyway, as it doesn't make much sense to shoot macro images close up wide open because the depth of field is so thin your subject will be half blurred anyway. Otherwise, the 40mm f2.8 macro lens seems to be well corrected with no color fringing even at f2.8 and with a surprising lack of vignetting. It produces images that are super contrasty and the colors are really punchy. The image quality of this lens far exceeded my expectation. Forget the brand and focus on the images. Even the bokeh looks nice to the eye, which means you can get some nice crispy looking macro shots quite easily. And no, the video is not sponsored and it's not an ad. TTArtisan did send me this lens for review, but I did not get to see this video before publishing. I just wish macro was more of my thing so I could really showcase what this lens can do. Some of the images I've seen online are pretty sweet. But there are times that I want to take a macro image, and although I really like the macro feature on my Ricoh GR3, this will do a better job. And at the same time, will not make me spend serious amounts of money. I may even use it for some close-up shots and video of the products I review on this channel. And you know, I said many things that make the TTArtisan 40mm f2.8 macro lens look worse than it actually is. It is a really good lens for an aps-c format camera, and even if you are not sure if you will stay with the crop sensor system forever, then something like this is a great option. Spend less on an aps-c lens like this, and if you stick with crop or you upgrade to the full frame, it's a win either way. I personally am completely fine with owning and using a cheaper lens like this one. There's nothing wrong with that at all, because although it might not look super appealing, at the end of the day it takes images that look like they came from a lens that is far more expensive than this. But if you don't want to lug around a dedicated macro lens, even if it costs less than $100, you need to watch this video next. The Ricoh GR3 macro mode is easily accessible and will blow your mind.